All right, welcome my friends to another episode of Extreme Health Radio. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you had a great Halloween. Did you guys do anything for Halloween? Did you dress up? I saw a lot of people posting on Instagram about their costumes, and there's some pretty creative costumes out there. That was cool. So hope you had a great Halloween. Hopefully you're not, sick from all the candy you ate. Thanks for joining us today. So today we had a little bit of a different show. Our guest had to cancel, unfortunately. So fortunately, I love learning about health, and I love learning about different aspects of human physiology and how can we all get better. And so we're going to talk about some ideas I've been sort of researching lately on blood pressure. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put, after it's all said and done, I'll put a little timestamp because we'll get to blood pressure, further on down the show. So I'll put a little timestamp so you can jump right to that section if you're interested in that. But there's a lot to get to today. So we've got a lot of cool things that I want to share with you. I got some listener questions that I'd like to share with you, and what else? Oh, first of all, I would like to just welcome our latest Extreme Health Academy members for our academy. So Julie Higgins, Cassandra, Michael Cole, Joan Bale, Teresa Poff, Karen Rich, Don Strom, Ann Sweeney, Wendy Halls, Rick Foley, Christy Price. Thank you guys for joining the Extreme Health Academy. That's just super, super cool. I'm glad you're here, and our goal is to help serve you in any way we possibly can inside the academy. So super excited that you chose us to be a part of your health and healing journey. So that's really, really cool. So I've got a lot of stuff to get to today. A lot of stuff. I want to share with you some show recaps. I want to share with you something about Matt Blackburn's products, Mitolife, and the Parasite show. Did you guys happen to catch that Parasite show that we did recently with Barbara Frank? Wow, we had so many people write in about that show because that was a fascinating show. So she basically went on to talk about parasites and how many parasites we have living in our bodies, and the fact that she's been able to help people's bodies reverse themselves from so many different ailments, all through getting rid of specific parasites. And so she talks about everything from baldness to gray hair to hair thinning to obesity to diabetes to weight loss to weight gain to thyroid health to dementia to cancer. Everything she's helping people reverse by getting rid of parasites. And lately I was learning that there's 300 or what is it? Yes, 300 or 100 trillion cells in the human body. I don't even know, first of all, how they even know that's true. How do they know there's 100 trillion cells? I mean, it seems impossible to know that. And then they say about 25 million of those cells are red blood cells. But the fact that there's like 10 times more organisms living off of us and because of us, namely parasites and bacteria, than we do have actual DNA of our own cells. That's pretty profound, right? And so what Barbara was saying on the show, which I thought was super fascinating, was when you have all these sort of leeches and parasites living off of you, the host, your body just can't make that ATP. It can't create its own energy. And if you think about it, each one of these organisms needs to eat, needs to reproduce, needs to poop, and it's using you to do all that. And sometimes, she would say most of the time, the reason why we feel bad is because of parasitic die-off or parasites excreting and putting poisons in your body. And it's a fascinating subject. And if you go do some research, some documentaries, there's all kinds of documentaries out there talking about parasites and all that stuff. So it seems to me that it would make a lot of sense that, parasites would be at the core of a lot of our health issues. And, there's a lot of different ways of looking at health, like there's the idea that everything stems from light and biophotons from the sun and blue light. And then there's the idea that, the mineral balances of the body, the work of Morley Robbins is the foundation. And, there's just a lot of different areas that you could focus on. But I like to see people focus on areas that are going to move the needle the most. And unfortunately, what you see in in this alternative natural health community is that, a lot of people are focusing on things that are really hard to stick with, like requires a lot of discipline, like changing your diet or changing, 35 years of eating a certain way, food cravings and addictions. So you have people focusing on that stuff. And even if they were to be 100% correct about their idea that is going to change their health, that itself won't move the needle as much as some other things. So it's, in my opinion, really important to make sure you focus on the things that are actually going to move the needle the most. So that's what I like to focus on. So I think, obviously the work of Morley Robbins, the work of Dr. Jack Kruse, this idea of mineral imbalance and magnesium and iron and copper, and then the work of Dr. Kruse with light water magnetism, and then parasites, getting rid of some of these things that are really causing our body not to create enough energy, I think is the key. Because if your body has enough energy, then it can get on top of viruses, fungus, mold, parasites, this lack of blue light. It's going to be able to heal and regenerate itself when the body has enough energy. So what I'm going to be doing is, we just released a course inside our academy called Blood Pressure Decoded, and I'll play the intro to that in a little while. But what I think I'll do is I'll just sort of jump around and let you guys know. First of all, have you guys seen some of our latest shows? If you're not subscribed to us on iTunes, I'd recommend it, or Stitcher, because what we're doing is we're releasing 2 shows a week, 2 new shows per week, and you can typically see those. Those are the ones that have the numbers like 600. This is episode 636. So numbers like that will tell you it's a new show. But then what we're doing on, the other 3 days of the week is we're releasing our archived best of content. So last night we released one with Ken Rolla, episode 411. That was all about using scalar energy to grow food, the benefits of Ormus, the future of free energy. Ken Rolla is a really cool guy, and he's the guy that we have some of his, I should say, scalar energy rest shields and some of his devices, some EMF protection devices in our EMF category of biocharge.me. We carry his products there. So we're happy to have him on, and he's a real cool guy. I like Ken a lot. And then we had episode the day before that, 198, with Rod Zelonka, and his body had a brain tumor, and he was able to overcome that. So if you know of anybody with a brain tumor or anything like that, that was extremehealthradio.com/198. And we talked about the politics of cancer and all that kind of cool stuff. And then the day before that, by the way, if you want to just tag them on Instagram, that would be a cool thing too. We're trying to, connect with more people on Instagram. It's a fun platform, and as long as they allow us to have it, I think we'll continue going with it. And then episode 438, we released the day before that, Michael Schrantz on how to properly check for mold in your home. So there's a lot of common sort of mistakes that people make. And so if you're having breathing issues, if you're having immune system issues, if you're having general lethargy and tiredness and things like that, it's very possible there could be mold in your environment. And so it's really important to keep your indoor air quality clean and get rid of the mold that could be growing and festering in your walls. And you may not even know it's there. That's the thing. And talk about a massive burden this places on your immune system. And so some of these things that we focus and talk about, like EMF and 5G and mold and parasites, what they do is they basically just burden your immune system so much. And so your body needs ATP to create energy, right? And so, for example, our heartbeat needs 1 billion ATP for every beat of your heart. 1 billion ATP. So we better make sure that we're making ATP properly, right? And enough of it. So when you have things like EMF and you have mold and you have parasites, these things just put such a burden, not counting the toxins and chemicals that we're exposed to in our food, air, and water, glyphosates in the air now. Stephanie Seneff is talking about that. And so when you have these things sort of overburdening your immune system, the chemicals and all that stuff, it just lowers your immune system. So your body's got to utilize and create energy and use the energy it's creating to get on top of these pathogens and viruses and mold and things. And if your body's devoting 30%, say 40% of its ATP that it's creating to get on top of these things, then that means these things are putting a 40% burden on your immune system. And so it's better if you get rid of those things or learn to mitigate them so that you can use that 40% to get on top of extra cells that may be dividing or some other issue that might be going on. So our last recent show that we had was episode 635 with Jeff Weitzman, and we talked with him about his documentary, Cancer Can Be Killed, Flipping the Script. That was episode 635. So if you guys want to check out any of these episodes, the Ken Rolla one was 411. The Rod Zalanka brain tumor one was 198. The mold one was 438. And Jeff Weitzman was 635. And so all you got to do is go to extremehealthradio.com/ and then the number. So 635. So that show, man, did you catch that show at all? 635 with Jeff Weitzman, Cancer Can Be Killed. So he's this documentary filmmaker, and it was really interesting because his wife was dealing with, I think, bladder cancer. And so the doctors basically gave her, I think a few months to live or something like that. And then he went to go to Germany, went to a cancer clinic in Germany, and just his wife's cancer just completely reversed itself. And it's a real shame when doctors do that. They tell you you've got 6 weeks to live or 4 weeks to live. And it's my contention that our bodies are so complex. Our bodies are so, as it says in the Bible, fearfully and wonderfully made, and so whether or not you believe in that or not, our bodies are so complex. It's unbelievable, all of what's going on in the body. And for a doctor to have the hubris to say that you only have 6 weeks to live or something is just absolutely crazy. But that's the nocebo effect, right? Or the placebo. It's like, or is that the nocebo? Where the doctor says something and then the majority of the time patients will go home and die in 6 weeks, So if you put your faith and hope and trust and love and stock in a doctor, a medical doctor telling you something, then I think you're really in for a shock because they don't have much for you. Speaking of medical doctors, episode 634, we had Dr. Stuart Fishbein. So by the way, Jeff Weitzman, he talked about his documentary called Cancer Can Be Cured, and then his new one called Flipping the Script. All right, so this is crazy, guys. This is absolutely nuts. So this new one is about, it's flipping the script on chemotherapy and childhood chemotherapy. So get this. Things like this just, oh my God, it makes you think that like we do not live in a free country. There's 4,000 laws passed every year. We don't live in a free country. It's like home ownership. You don't own your home because if you did, you wouldn't have to pay yearly property taxes. They just make you think of these things like, doing the Pledge of Allegiance before a game or doing these things. It's like, we don't live in a free society. And so what they're doing now with his documentary called Flipping the Script is this is nuts. So a child will have cancer, right? And they go through the conventional treatments. They have the chemotherapy, they have the radiation, whatever the allotted treatment time is and the dosage is, they go through that and they're now declared cancer-free, right? So then the parents say, great, I'm excited. Now we can go home and get on with our life, right? And the doctor will say, no, you can't do that because now we're afraid of the cancer coming back. And what we have to do now is we have to put your kid on a low-dose chemotherapy regimen for 2 to 4 years. And if you say, no, I don't think so. We've just gone through these rounds of chemo. My kid is fine. You said he's cancer-free. I think we're going to go home. Then what they will do is they'll call CPS. And now a lot of these kids are being snatched up by CPS, kidnapping basically these kids and taking the kids away from the parents. And so it's a real issue. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's so obvious to me. It's so obvious that the doctor is only doing that because of pressure from Big Pharma. And Big Pharma is only doing that because you can't say that every child who's gone through chemotherapy and is now declared cancer-free needs 2 to 4 years of chemo. But that's what they're saying. They're saying every child. And so what's crazy about that is first of all, they're applying a standard to everybody. And we all know that we're uniquely different. So that standard just doesn't apply because we're all different. Second of all, it's just so blatantly obvious. I mean, can't you guys see it where you guys, I'm sure, can see it, but it's just like the average person, I don't think they see this stuff. Like it's just a money grab. It's capturing potential revenue. That's really what it's about. It's about capturing potential revenue. And so, wow, talk about sad. So we talked about that on episode 635 with his Jeff Weitzman on flipping the script on childhood chemo. And then 634 was with our medical doctor, Dr. Stuart Fishbein. He is just so amazing. What a guy. So he is the only doctor here in California that's a medical doctor that is able to assist women giving birth to twins at home. I don't know why the laws are like that. We were going to have our kids at a birthing center or at home, and the birthing center didn't allow that. So if there's twins, they could only deal with singles. I guess it's a California law. So then our only option was doing it at home, but then midwives can't do that either if there's twins. So our options were the hospital or doing it at home with just me. And, I wasn't that comfortable with doing that, just Kate and myself. And the hospital doesn't sound like a good idea. And then one of our awesome listeners sent us Dr. Stuart Fishbein. So he's got a really cool podcast on natural birth and informed consent and parental rights, Dr. Stuart Fishbein, called Dr. Stu's Podcast. So we had him in studio, episode 634. That was super fun. And then episode 406, Dr. John Bergman. I don't know if you caught that one, but in that show, that was an in-studio show too. That was when we talked about Obamacare and how Obamacare is basically, it's failing us massively. So the trick with this healthcare is understanding that this isn't healthcare. This is sick management care. This is disease treatment. This isn't healthcare. It's an oxymoron, and they use language because it has nothing to do with health. It has to do with pushing pharmaceutical agenda and profits for the pharmaceutical industries. That's why they want everyone to have healthcare, because it is a massive profit motive for the healthcare companies and the pharmaceutical companies. Because pharmaceutical drugs don't promote health. They radically change the physiology, the mineral matrix, the mineral balances of your body. They impact your liver. They impact your gut microbiome. They impact the inflammatory markers, C-reactive protein. They impact so many different aspects of your health. And they think that just because I can lower a number or raise a number means that I'm somehow healthy. And this is healthcare, pushing pills on people. And it's just not. It's not health care at all. This is disease management and profiting off sick patients until they're dead. This is what our healthcare system is in the United States. And so understanding that is huge. And so what we do with that information is that we have to really manage our health and become our own guru when it comes to our health. And we can't outsource our health. It's just not going to be good for anybody. When you just live like everyone else is living and do what everybody else is doing, the disease and the statistics are just overwhelming that there is a greater than 50% chance you are going to come down with something, whether it's diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's, hypertension, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, cancer. All of these things are guaranteed for everybody unless you do something about it. And we live in a sick culture. We live in a time when they're teaching children to give up their rights and to give up the use of their mind and to bow down to authority for the sake of certainty. And that's what they're teaching our children through the medical system and through schooling. And so when we realize that it's time for us to take care of ourselves, that it's no one else's responsibility to be healthy, our health is 100% in our hands. And of course, connection with God and faith and things like that is really important as well, and others and yourself and the earth. I mean, all of that is really important too. But, you can't just go live a toxic lifestyle and expose yourself to blue light and non-native EMF and wireless routers, and just accept all that along with the chemicals in your food and conventional diet and stress, and then think that you're somehow going to be immune to these statistics. So what we try to do is educate so that we can prevent some of these things, because all of us, the human body should be living to at least 150 years, in my opinion. I think it's designed to live that long, but the problem is the toxins and the burdens and the stress and the chemicals and the parasites and all the things that are causing our modern world to be so toxic. It puts such a burden on your body. Iron overload, that's a massive one. Huge iron overload. It's massive. So let me just take a quick sip of water here. So let's see, the old agenda. Let's see, I got a lot to talk about. So yeah, okay, so I'm going to start, speaking of parasites, I'm going to start some of the protocols from Barbara Frank. So I'll keep you updated on that. So we had Barbara Frank, the Parasite Show, on episode 630, if you guys want to listen to that show or watch it. It's on our YouTube channel, extremehealthradio.com/630. So it's interesting. She talks about these Demodex mites, and what they do is they cause baldness, hair thinning in both men and women. And she says it's no more complex than that. What these Demodex mites do is that they rob your body of copper, one thing, which is really interesting because that goes right into the hands of the mineral balances that Morley Robbins talks about. And your body starts producing hydrogen peroxide, and then your hair turns gray, all caused by these parasites. And then these Demodex mites actually live in the hair follicles, and you can see them. If you search Demodex mites on Google Images, you'll see these things. And once you get rid of these things, she's talking about reversing wrinkles, reversing hair loss, and in both men and women, and reversing diseases. So this should be really interesting. We have a bunch of our products now, and so we're going to go through them and start using them. So haven't started using them yet, but I'm going to soon. So that's going to be really interesting. I'll keep you updated on what the effects of that are, because I think she's onto something. I really do. And I think that the misconception that we have in the alternative world, like I'm looking at our homepage now and I'm saying, like this episode 469 with Carrie Rivera, we did a show on MMS, and that was she's using it for the AUTISM. Hopefully this show doesn't get pulled by YouTube like that episode did. 469 is no longer on YouTube. They took it away from us, because she's working with MMS and AUTISM and having incredible success. And so, but what I was going to say was, like, all these guests that we have on our show, they say that, what they're studying, like Barbara Frank thinks that parasites are the cause of all disease. Morley Robbins, love his work. And I think Morley Robbins, personally, is one of the most important figures. Like, if he were an NBA player, he'd be like Jerry West or Michael Jordan. He would be like this, one of the most seminal people in health, and you don't hear about the guy a lot. He talks about minerals, iron, and how magnesium, copper and iron dysregulation in the body, magnesium and calcium, and how magnesium regulates calcium and copper regulates iron, and retinol and its role in building hormones and getting these excess iron out of the body. And so what he talks about is, like, his world, right? Everyone has their world that we talk to, and everyone thinks that their world is the end all be all. I'm not saying Morley doesn't. If anybody has it right, I think it's Morley. He's just amazing. But Stephen Baker, we talk with him about vaccines, and so it's just interesting. We have a lot of people, a lot of different perspectives on health, and so it's sort of my job to put everything together and kind of come up with an idea of some context with putting these things into a system and placing an order of importance on these things. And, because you can go down the rabbit trail of a lot of these different people, so it's in my opinion, after doing 650 shows, that the order of importance of, there's only a handful of things to focus on, in my opinion. And then focus on the food last. That's what I think. Food is like the last thing when it comes to your health that actually makes a significant difference. There's so many other aspects of your health. So if you haven't checked out our shows, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of these ones. And all that to say that we're releasing every single day. We're releasing archive shows, so it's really, really cool to share these with you. And if you're subscribed on iTunes, you get to hear them. So leave us a review as well, and let us know what you think of the shows. All right, so we got a question here from Julie, and she says, first, hi, Justin Kate. First, let me thank you for all that you do. More than appreciated. It says, they're putting up a 5G tower less than a mile from my home. After all I've gone through to opt out of smart meters on my home, this really makes me angry. I'm interested in purchasing an EMF fabric to make a canopy for my bed. I looked in your store but did not see any products listed. There are so many companies selling EMF products, and it's impossible to know whether or not they are legit. Do you have any recommendations, or perhaps a recommendation for someone who would know if you do not? Also, I assume that you have done your due diligence and know that the Greenwave filters really work, correct? Thank you so much for your time. Julie, I'm sorry they're doing that. They put up a 5G tower near our home as well. And so we're putting together a plan and implementing it for EMF mitigation. So this is the thing. So over our entire neighborhood, they have a huge, massive tower, and they're actually breaking laws by doing that because it needs to be 300 feet from the closest residence, and this is 297 feet. So they're actually breaking laws by doing it. But the grounds that they're on is a church, and they're paying the church $30,000 a month. So this is why these churches and these places like schools, you go to a high school, you see these things everywhere. And this is why I would never send my child to school. This is one of the reasons. There's a lot of reasons why I'd never send my child to school. But anyway, what do you do? So there's no way around it. We're going to live in a 5G world. Adam Bergstrom, who is another amazing guest on our show, he says China is looking at 6G now, and I don't even understand how and why they're doing all. I mean, I do, but my God. We did a whole, if you're interested, we did a 2.5 hour presentation with Ken Rolla about 5G mitigation. This was a workshop that we did in our academy, and we went through all the slides and talked about recommended products as well as the strategies and where to get different things to mitigate. So that's all in the Extreme Health Academy with Ken Rolla. But so the EMF purchasing fabric, what I would do, Julie, is I would go to our store and go to the EMF section. To me, this is so worth it because to me, 5G and wireless radiation, this is a major piece. This is a major piece. Like, this is well beyond making sure your diet, you're eating a ketogenic diet or something. I mean, this is like orders of magnitude way more important than your diet. And what I would do is I would either save up the money or pay for Brian Hoyer to come to your house. And this is what he did with us. He brings like $40,000 worth of equipment with him to test like every dirty electricity, wireless radiation. He found out our neighbors have a deck phone that's overflowing into where our office is at home. So he comes and he checks this is how I know the Greenwave filters work. This is why we put the Greenwave filters in our house or on our store as well, is that when he was here testing, it was like a 97% reduction in the dirty electricity in the walls from these Greenwave filters. So, to me, they're well worth it. So, to answer your question, I would have Brian Hoyer come to your house, and then I would go to Less EMF. And I think that we have some of their products are in our store. And you go to Less EMF, and they have fabric that you can make your own Faraday cage. But you have to be really careful with how you do that. So that's really important to make sure that you do that correctly. So this is why I would have Brian Hoyer. He'll come out to your home, and I think he'll spend like 2 or 3 hours at your home, and he'll come up with a whole protocol of what you need to work on and focus on, and things like that. So it's really well worth the money. And a few times a year, he goes around to different parts of the country, and we'll do a home EMF assessment. And if you go to our store, biocharge.me, you'll see under the EMF section a place for him to do that. So that's what I would do. I'd focus on that. And then check on Less EMF. I know they have some good products for building your own Faraday cage and stuff like that. So All right, so I'm going to check out the live show, see what you guys are talking about in the chat room. A lot of cool people here. I'm going to kind of bounce around. Brandy is here. Karen, tell me where you guys are from. I always love knowing that. It's so cool to see where you guys are listening from. Kathy, yes, she says Frank was very interesting. By the way, if you guys have any questions or if you want to join us on the show, you can call me on Skype, Extreme Health Radio, if you would like, and chat with us on the show there. Beck from Ohio is here. Good to have you here, Beck. Big Fat Mama is here. Awesome. Hey, Big Fat Mama, did you tell me in a recent... I was looking back at some of the chat, and you were talking about working in a toxic environment, and I forget what you said, so if you could tell me, that'd be great. Dr. Ace Harden is here. Dude, great to have you here. Tina, thank you for the truth. Brandy, yeah, episode 630 with Barbara Frank. That was a cool show. Glad you liked the shows, Brandy. That's really cool. Tina, how does anyone find out if they are putting 5G near you? So you can go to a website called antennasearch.com, and I don't know if AntennaSearch has information about 5G towers, but the problem with 5G is that they're installing these things everywhere. So that's a real issue. If you look around your streets, you'll see them on street lights. You'll see them in four-way intersections. They're just attaching these things everywhere. And the reason is because what they're trying to do is cover a wider area, and there's so much output and power that's required of these 5G towers. They're not like these huge towers. I mean, some of them are, but they're also placing redundant towers around everywhere. So they're just blanketing the entire Earth with this 5G radiation. So this is really damaging. So even if it doesn't look like they're putting a tower near your neighborhood, most likely you're going to be near one at some point. So we have to really focus on what's going to help us be healthy. Let's see. Igloo, Belgium. Any idea where to get EMF blockers in Europe? Tell me what you mean, EMF blockers. Like what kind of EMF blockers are you looking for? Tina's in Central Florida. Nice. Anthony, great to have you here. Hey, I just recorded an entire thing for blood pressure for the Extreme Health Academy. So that's going to be going on really soon. So Anthony, I hope you got my response in the forums about blood pressure. So yeah, and checking out the blood pressure course. And keep me updated on your mom, too, if you can, because I know that's a real issue. And I'm glad, Anthony, I'm really glad that your mom is open to new ideas as well. That's really cool. Tina's in Central Florida. Igloo is in Europe. Joe Mama is in Ventura County, brother, near Bakersfield, California. That's awesome. Gosh, so great. So great. Tamara, I'm listening to you while I'm at work. God bless you. Wow, thank you. That is so cool. Tamara, you rock. I appreciate it. Thandy says, if you have any advice on braces for kids and dental implants, please share. South Africa. Wow. Thandy, that's awesome. I was in South Africa in 2002. I traveled the world. I took a year off, traveled the world by myself. I was, 25 years old at the time. Went by myself around the world, and I stayed with some friends in South Africa and went surfing. Stayed in Durban, went to Cape Town. It was a lot of fun. So dental, any advice on braces for kids? Yes. So typically, okay, so here's a really good resource. Carol Vanderstoep. She's a myofascial, gosh, what's the right word for that? Myofascial, I think. Is that right? Okay, so just search. We've had her on our show, Carol Vanderstoep, and it's Carol Van and then Derstoep, I believe. And she'll work with children and us. So the reason why the teeth are crooked is because of copper dysregulation, not enough copper, too much iron in the body of a mother, and improportionate amounts of minerals it's minerals that cause the formation of the face to happen. And so if the mom doesn't have enough bioavailable copper, too much iron, and not enough magnesium, the facial structure of the child is not going to be proper. And so this is what happens. A lot of times they talk about too, what do they call those little pacifiers? So these things impact, and a lack of minerals, retinol being one that Morley Robbins talks about, cholesterol, forming proper facial structure. And so the arches aren't high enough, the teeth aren't far enough apart, the teeth get close together, and then you have the crooked teeth because they're being smashed together because the way they're coming in is not being regulated by minerals. And so then the child needs braces. So I would probably... Braces are never recommended, especially not metal braces, not just because of what's in the metals for one, but they're also a conductor of electricity. So moving into a 5G world, getting braces or putting any kind of metal in your body would not be a good idea. And by the way, iron is a heavy metal. So how do we think this iron overload in our body is going to affect 5G and dirty electricity? Food for thought, questions for another day, right? So if you're iron overloaded and 5G is coming and you're low in magnesium, and you're low in copper, and you have too much calcium, and you have no retinol, how is that going to affect the dirty electricity in your walls? How is that going to interplay with your biology? So things to think about. So in terms of braces, not just the heavy metals coming off of the braces themselves, but them being a conductor, basically an antenna for 5G, and then the other issues. So I would look up Carol Vander Stoop, and she wrote a book called Mouth Matters. So you could look into that. Anthony says, I did. Thank you for it. Yeah, cool, Anthony. Keep me updated on your mom. Anthony, for those who don't know, is a member of our Extreme Health Academy. And we've been kind of going back and forth a little bit, along with Rebecca Gilling. She's a member as well. But we've been going kind of back and forth, helping Anthony's mom with blood pressure. And I'm going to get to that in just a second, too. So... Callie Johnson, hi, love your show. One of my favorite podcasts. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Callie, I see your comments and your, I just see you around. So I'm not sure if you're following us on Instagram. Maybe I've seen you there too. But yeah, I appreciate that. That's so cool. You want to know where to get a 2-week free trial. So Callie, you're watching on YouTube, obviously. If you go to the description, you'll see a link for the Extreme Health Academy, and then the 2-week trial is EHR14. So you can sign up and get a 2-week trial. I'd love to have you, and I'd love to connect further with you and help you, any way I possibly can. Tim is in Florida. Jax, awesome. Joe Mama says, do not get titanium dental implants until you've investigated this real problem. Yeah, this is why I tore my ACL back in 2005 doing jiu-jitsu. And I think it was like an 80% tear of my ACL in my right knee. And I never got surgery because I didn't want, because what they do is they connect the tendon to a metal plate and they attach that to the bone. And I do not want any kind of metal in my body at all, whether it's heavy metals from food, iron overload, tattoos, anything like that, or implants of that. So heavy metal moving into this crazy 5G, 6G world is definitely not a good thing. And so I agree with you, Joe Mama. Are you a proponent of supplemental iodine? Dale. Well, that's a good question. I've been researching that lately, and it's funny because you have one opinion about something because of, some research that you do, and then you hold that opinion, and then you have some conflicting evidence over here, and then until you do the same amount of research on the conflicting evidence side, you're in limbo a little bit, and that's where I'm at right now with supplemental iodine. Iodine is a powerful substance, as is vitamin D and melatonin, things like that. These are hormones. So at least vitamin D and melatonin, these are hormones. So right now, now I'm kind of wavering on this iodine thing. I think there's a lot we can do to upregulate our hormonal health without using iodine. I definitely wouldn't be using iodine myself internally because I think it really screws up your gut flora. As far as topically, transdermally, I'm starting to question whether or not it's good. So I'll let you know, Dale, when I come to more research on that. Callie says, thank you for that information. I have metal thing in my teeth from braces. Definitely will have to get it removed. Tina says you can just take good kelp. Yeah, I'd much prefer something like that for the iodine than taking iodine itself. But I still could be convinced that iodine is good for you. So there's a lot of people that take it. A lot of natural people take it, swear by it, change numbers and all that. But now other people are starting to question that. So now I'm starting to question it as well. So as soon as I do more research, I'll let you know. I use 2 days a week and seems to boost my energy, but I'm questioning as well. Thank you. Yeah, so this is the thing that's really interesting. This is one of the reasons why I'm starting to question it. It's because I've been doing a lot of work recently studying the work of Morley Robbins, and he's talking a lot about mineral balances and mineral dysregulation. And if you have the minerals working correctly, your body will operate correctly. And if it's operating correctly, then you don't need these extra things like this. Now, with that said, context is really important too, because all of that could be true in a 3G world, or in a world where you're not, prior to 1879 in the invention of electricity and the invention of light and non-native EMF. Like, that could be true in that world. But we always have to take into context, like, what's the world we're living in? What are our stress levels? What kind of environment are we in? So to say it's blanket is kind of doesn't do anyone any service, I don't think, because we all have these different contexts of things. And we all have different stressors on our body and different demands and things like that. So, it's really important to make sure that we understand the environment we're living in and the world at large that we're living in, and then applying that context to like certain studies that you might hear about. Tina says, in a world where, I'm sorry, Brandy, my bad. How do you intake copper properly? So if you listen to the shows we've done with Morley Robbins, copper regulates iron and magnesium regulates calcium. And so it's really important. So copper, the three main sources for copper that are good are beef liver. And I know that sounds gross, right? Beef liver. But you can do the ancestral supplements. We have them in our store, biocharge.me, and you can just do the beef liver capsules, and you don't have to worry about eating it. It's definitely not as good as eating the beef liver itself. Beef liver is disgusting. I know, I get it. But it's one of the most important foods that you can consume, beef liver. And then what you might want to do is just start taking the ancestral supplements for the copper content of the beef liver. That way you just supplements easy, right? You can start there and then move into the gross, disgusting actual liver itself. And then whole food vitamin C is not ascorbic acid, because that binds up copper and prevents copper from working, and copper regulates iron. And if copper is not able to regulate iron, then you have all kinds of health issues, from low oxygen in the body and suffocation of the cells, all that kind of stuff. So according to Morley Robbins, the ascorbic acid does that, but whole food vitamin C contains copper and doesn't do that. So that would be another source. And then the third source of copper, what is the third source of copper? What is that? Whole food vitamin C, beef liver. Oh, bee pollen. That's right. Bee pollen is the third highest source of copper. So you might want to consider getting some bee pollen. So yeah, hopefully that helped. Tina says, also people are in need of different things at different times. I agree. That's the thing. Not everyone's the same, and people have different stresses and demands on their body, and everyone's body works differently. And, someone may have eaten a diet super heavy in polyunsaturated fatty acids for 30 years, and they may live in a high EMF environment. Someone may have been breastfed, has really good gut flora. They're also, exposed to high EMF environment, but they have a better foundation. So all of these things we have to take into context of what our goals are and all that. So, a lot of people out there in the alternative health world are saying ketogenic, or like the Dr. Ray Peat, eat sugar and, your liver stores glycogen, or, what's this, the paleo diet, the carnivore diet, the ketogenic diet, all these things. And I don't subscribe to any of those things. I think we need to look at our bodies and determine for ourselves what makes sense for us in this time. So, Tina, I totally agree with you. Brian says, in a world where we're not being bombarded by bromide, fluoride, and chlorine. Yeah. Our waters are. So, and our waters have chlorine and fluorine in there, or fluoride. So it's chloramine and ammonia and bromides now they're putting in bread. Bread used to actually have iodine in it, but they removed it. They removed the iodine in order to make the bread white so that people would be more comfortable eating it. Turned it white, and then they added bromide to it, which is has the opposite effect of iodine. And so, these halogens are causing a lot of damage. One, I never questioned my magnesium. It stopped all my cramps, calmed my nerves, and improved my mood. I also use a little bentonite for supplemental minerals. Yeah, magnesium is the number one mineral that we should all be focused on. And there's a lot of people now talking about minerals and how important, specifically magnesium. So we have like 9,000 enzymes in our body that regulate 100 trillion cells, just 9,000 enzymes. And then those enzymes have to be controlled by something, and they're controlled by minerals, right? So you have 9,000, you have 100 trillion cells, 25 trillion red blood cells, 100 trillion total cells, and then you have 9,000 enzymes. And those enzymes need to be controlled by something. And so it turns out that magnesium, one mineral, is responsible for controlling 42% of those 9,000 enzymes. That's like 3,700 enzymes. And so magnesium is needed for everything from blinking to having a thought to trying to remember something to moving your head. Magnesium is critical for everything. And so it's really recommended that you have a strategy in place for getting more magnesium into your body. There's lots of different ways to do that. Transdermally, there's the magnesium lotions. You can take capsules of it. You can make magnesium bicarbonate water. You can do a magnesium foot bath. You can do a magnesium bath itself, transdermally, so you're getting all these kinds of things. So Dale says magnesium controls 346 bodily functions. That's actually not true. Well, it's hard to say. I mean, you or I haven't cut open the human body and actually seen magnesium controlling, this. But so what we know is that 300 number came from a Harvard researcher, and someone had asked him, he was really big in studying magnesium, and he just kind of pulled that 300 number out of his head. But in actuality, it's 3,700, according to Morley Robbins. And so that's, fascinating, right? So as far as minerals go, magnesium is number one. Anthony says, Dr. Bergman recommended this a while back. Your thoughts? American Nutraceuticals Vitamin C, 200 grams, ultra-high potency vitamin C powder, neutral pH with GMS ribose complex. Yeah, Anthony, that's a good one because it's a whole food. It's plant-based and it's a whole food. I would have to actually look at the product itself. But what we're trying to do is move away from this ascorbic acid. Some people swear by it. Like Dr. Andrew Saul, who's the vitamin guy, he swears by it. He says there's nothing that is saying that ascorbic acid isn't just as good as plant-based vitamin C powders. But now we're learning that ascorbic acid, when it's by itself, is dysregulating copper, and we can't afford to have that because copper regulates iron. And living in an iron toxic world, we can't afford to have less and less copper. So with the iron fortification program that happened after World War II, everything is fortified with iron. You look at Mother's formula, they add vitamin D and iron. But if you look at actual breast milk, it doesn't have either one of those things. So nature has a way of telling you that there's not supposed to be iron or vitamin D in breast milk. But yet in all the formulas, we are now having iron and vitamin D added. And look at any of your food. So we can't have a dysregulation of copper. So if ascorbic acid is dysregulating copper, then I wouldn't take it. So this recommended product by Dr. Bergman is a whole food base. And so what that comes with the alkaloids and the buffering compounds and all those things that come with a whole food plant-based vitamin C that has all those extra constituents in it that turn off and turn on certain things. And that's what you want, because that apparently, according to Morley, doesn't have any issues with turning off copper. So fascinating stuff, right? I mean, like, for us to understand even all this, I think we're living in an awesome time. And so So, Couch Concerts. I love your show. Such a wealth of information. God bless. Yeah, where are you guys located? Couch Concerts. I like that. I'd love to know where you're located. Let's see. Magnesium controls. Yeah, 3,700. Wow. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest takeaways you can get from this show is just to figure out a plan to get more magnesium into your body, because magnesium, like I said, regulates calcium and is responsible for those 3,700 enzymatic factors, and 42% of your enzymes is turned on and off by magnesium, but then also lowering iron as well. So this is a whole subject that I've been researching a lot lately, and it's really, really fascinating. So, health doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be complex. And so when we come back, I'm going to take a little break right now, grab a swig of water. But when we come back, if you guys have any questions, you want to call up on Skype, let me know, or just call us on Extreme Health Radio. And let's see, what else do I want to get to? I got to get to this blood pressure thing, because I have a lot to share with you about blood pressure and let's see, a lot of other cool stuff to get to. So I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate that, and we'll be right back right after this.
You're listening to Extreme Health Radio, and I hope you're enjoying this show. Please share it with your friends by tagging @Extreme Health Radio on Instagram. Stay tuned for new shows weekly.
Yeah, come join us on Instagram. It's a lot of fun. I love interacting with you guys, posting some stuff and sharing our family. And come and join us and share our shows on Instagram too, if you would. I would really appreciate that. We're trying to get the word out to more people, and so that you guys can, share our content with people that really need it. And so, feel free to share us. But going back to Julie's question, we have a little clip from Ken Rolla about the Greenwave filters.
Dirty electricity, what that does, and what it is actually for people that aren't aware, is when the power company is generating electricity and sending it to you, they don't have a constantly perfect, steady supply of 120 volt, 60 hertz electricity pulsing to you perfectly every time. It fluctuates quite a bit, and if you put meters on it, you can see it'll fluctuate. And so that fluctuation, and there are micro fluctuations as well, and those micro fluctuations, all that fluctuation creates these pulses in the wiring that will create EMF pulses around you. I mean, the wires themselves, when electricity is flowing through them, that will create a field around the wires that can affect you. But then when you've got all that little pulsing and micro pulsing going on, it's creating these frequencies of fields that are pulsing and affecting you negatively. And so those devices like the Greenwave, they will act like an inductor and smooth that signal out so you don't get that pulsing. And then my devices, because of the scalar fields, they will structure the EMF coming off of the wires in your house and everything else as well. I use those. I use Stetzer filters and Greenwave. I got both.
Yeah, so that was Ken Rolla, awesome guy, and these are our biocharge.me Greenwave filters. So I really recommend these things, guys. So, like, one of the reasons why I recommend these so much are because what's cool about them is that, if you're trying to eat a certain diet, it's like you're struggling and you're trying so hard and you're working and you're trying to, say no to cravings and all these types of things. But what's cool about these kind of products is you plug them in and it just reduces the EMF, the dirty electricity. And it comes with like a meter too. And I've seen it work, and it works in our house. And so it's so great. You can actually look at the numbers, and it completely mitigates the dirty electricity in your walls that Magda Havas is showing now that it's affecting blood sugar levels. Martin Paul has talked about dirty electricity. What it does, one of the things it does is it opens the voltage-gated calcium ion channels in your cells. Basically what it allows it to do, calcium is supposed to be sort of invited into the cell by magnesium to use for pH regulation and a ton of other things. But what dirty electricity does is it basically blows apart your blood, the membranes around your cell, if you believe in cells having membranes. Some people don't. But it opens up those voltage-gated calcium ion channels, and calcium that's in the serum now in your blood enters into the cell where it doesn't belong at 1,000 times more than it's supposed to be. And Professor Martin Paul is like, he's mapped out 100 different diseases to this stuff. So man, we got to be really creative. So Greenwave is a great way to mitigate the dirty electricity. It won't do anything for 5G, won't do anything for ambient EMF or anything like that. But what it does is it steps down the currents, the magnetic and electric currents coming out of your walls. So I really recommend them a lot. And so, and something else too that I wanted to share with you guys is the Magnetico sleep pad. So talking a little bit about EMF and things. I'm going to bring up a little clip from Dr. William Pollack talking about EMF, and I think you guys might enjoy this.
The body, and for the body.
Okay.
All the activity of the body, all those biochemical processes rely on the natural electromagnetic fields and electrical fields within the body itself.
Okay.
Magnetic fields drive chemical reactions.
Okay.
Chemical reactions interact with magnetic fields, so they go back and forth.
Okay.
Again, it's very dynamic. But because the magnetic field doesn't stay in the body doesn't have to process a magnetic field the way it processes a chemical or a food.
Okay.
Okay? And it's going all the way through. And as it goes through, it does a bunch of different things. And in the book, I actually have about 25 different mechanisms that I describe about how magnetic fields actually work in the body.
Interesting. Okay.
But the primary mechanism we believe that's happening is that you're generating charge, you're generating energy, the production of energy in the tissues. And remember I said electric currents and magnetic fields in the body itself drive and move all sorts of processes continually.
Okay.
And when you have disease, when you have illness, when things are not functioning as well as you want, and including aging, the slowing down of activity in the body, that is due to a decreasing energy production processes in the body. That's what aging is. It's the reduction of energy in the body.
So what a lot of people are talking about is EMF, right? Electromagnetic field radiation. But what a lot of people aren't talking about is beneficial magnetism. And this is what PEMF is. That's a pulsed electromagnetic field. The Magnetico sleep pad that I'm showing you guys here from biocharge.me is a magnetic field that you can sleep on. And what's amazing is that if you look at the magnetic charge of the Earth, it's diminished about 80% in the last 4,000 years. It used to be around 3 to 5 Gauss, I think. If that's correct, I think it was about 3 to 5 Gauss. Yeah, and now it's less than 0.5 Gauss. So not only is the electric or the magnetic field of the Earth weakening and diminishing over 80% in the last 4,000 years, we're also being exposed to non-native EMF in the form of 5G and wireless and all this kind of stuff. So we're being taken away from the healing effects of the magnetic field of the Earth, but then also exposed to EMF and other man-made non-native EMF that's on the Earth now. And so one of the ways to mitigate that is through this Magnetico Mattress pad. And what's cool about this thing is that you only need to, it's like a one-time purchase, right? Over 50 years, the amount of decrease of the magnetism of these pads is 6%. And you're basically bathing yourself in a magnetic field when you sleep. And what I like about that is not only are you getting all the beneficial effects of the magnetism that we're supposed to be exposed to, but you're also discharging this Wi-Fi and 5G and stuff like that. So these things are awesome because you just put them on your bed and you turn your bed into like a healing center. It's amazing. And so Dr. Dean Bondley, we had on the show, he's talked about, the connection between discharging heavy metals and all kinds of things like that just from sleeping on these Magnetico mattress pads. I don't know if that's true. I haven't done any before and afters, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. And so I can't make that claim, but I can say that talk about a way to make your sleep environment a lot better. So I highly recommend. We did a whole show with Dr. Dean Bondley about it too. And yeah, so if you go through our link, I think you'll get a little discount. I'm not sure how much it is. I think it's EHR10 is what the discount is. And if not, let me know and I can contact Joan over there, who's a really great contact. So I would really recommend getting these Greenwave and getting the Magnetico mattress because it just helps set up an environment for healing in your house. And so I think that's really important, especially moving into our toxic world today. So check those out, biocharge.me, and you can learn more about what they do, what they are, and all that kind of cool stuff. All right, so we're going to finally get to some blood pressure issues and some ideas after this.
This is Extreme Health Radio, where we're 100% listener supported. Make sure to join the Extreme Health Academy with thousands of other listeners and get real solutions for your health challenges.
So we just released the Blood Pressure Decoded course from Dr. Bergman inside the Extreme Health Academy, and I'm going to play you the intro to that in just a second. But if you know of anybody dealing with any blood pressure issues, send them this link to this show, and I'm going to share some ideas now. I think what I'll do is I'll sort of jump out of the chat room because I could chat with you guys all day. I love it. It's like going back and forth with friends, and yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll not look at that so that I can stay on point and and talk about some blood pressure issues. So I'm going to bring up some stats here. So this is from the CDC. This is crazy, guys. Like, you start looking at how many people are dealing with blood pressure, hypertension, and it's just, it blows your mind. This is like the state of America today. So check this out. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I'm bringing up this article, and I'll put the link to this article on the show page for this show. By the way, you can grab access to the Greenwave and the Magnetico at extremehealthradio.com/636. I'll put a link there, as well as these articles here. CDC, cdc.gov. God bless the CDC, right? Or not. It says here, having high blood pressure puts you at risk for... See, the first thing is fear, right? Fear, fear, fear. They just love making people afraid. Having high blood pressure puts you at risk for heart disease and stroke, which are leading causes of death in the United States. Isn't that fun to fun to learn about? 75 million Americans, adults, 32% have high blood pressure. That's 1 in every 3 adults. About 1 in 3 American adults has prehypertension, blood pressure numbers that are higher than normal, but not yet in the high blood pressure range. Only about half, 54% of people with high blood pressure have their condition under control. High blood pressure was a primary or contributing cause of death for more than 410,000 Americans in 2014. That's more than 1,100 deaths each day. High blood pressure costs the nation... I wouldn't say costs the nation, because they're really profiting from this, right? So it's not a cost, but this is how they word things. It doesn't cost the nation. It costs you, but it doesn't cost the nation, because what's controlling the nation is the pharmaceutical companies. But anyway, $48.6 billion every year. So this is how much they make from hypertension and blood pressure, $48.6 billion. This total includes the cost of healthcare services, medications to treat high blood pressure, and missed days of work. So this is massive. You know, I'm learning it from adults or children 16 to 34. I read a study recently that I think like 30% of children 16 to 34 and adults or young adults are dealing with high blood pressure. I mean, this is crazy, right? I guess it all depends on what they determine to be high blood pressure, and they're going to continually make those numbers lower so they can get more people in those stats, and then they can give those people medications. So let's talk about some blood pressure issues. And let's talk about why we have high blood pressure, what's going on. So there's a lot of reasons why our blood is raising the pressure for it to move nutrients throughout the body. So we have about 25 to 30 trillion red blood cells in our bodies. That's a lot, right? And we have pathogens, we have plastics, we have chemicals, heavy metals, all kinds of stuff that are gumming up not just our mineral balances, but also the flow of nutrients and lack of oxygen, lack of carbon dioxide, things like that. So there's a lot of reasons for this, but generally, if the number at the bottom number, if that's 110 or more, then most naturopathic doctors would tell you to go get medical help. So for example, 160 over 90 is fine. There's a lot of people, that live just fine with that. But if the bottom number gets over 110, it's time to sort of take things a little bit more seriously and try to figure out what's going on. So there's a lot of causes for blood pressure. So The top number for adults should be around 115, 120. If it's less than that, then you want to look at adrenal health. If your adrenals are not working properly. So you got to tie in the adrenal glands to your blood pressure as well. Now, a lot of times, high blood pressure is simply correlated with food sensitivities and histamines and allergies, and maybe eating lectins or things that your body phytates from, chemicals that plants put out on nuts and seeds, or gluten, or glyphosate, as it should be called. A lot of times, food sensitivities will raise your pulse and also your blood pressure. So it could be something as simple as a food sensitivity. But in terms of other factors, contributing factors, cadmium, heavy metal, is always been correlated with high blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, a lot of times doing a heavy metal cleanse, doing some IV chelation, some EDTA, some things like that to sort of carpet bomb and remove all the heavy metals in your body, that will just regulate your blood pressure right away. So you can look in your area if you want to do a heavy metal cleanse. You do things to pull heavy metals out of your blood. Specifically, cadmium is related to, for some reason, I don't know why, but the studies are showing that cadmium is tied to blood pressure. And then so from a recall healing perspective, from a deeper emotional spiritual perspective, look at your life and look at the environment and the situation you're in. So when you feel like you have to exert more pressure to manipulate a person or a situation to have the outcome that you want, this will a lot of times cause your blood pressure to rise because you're exerting pressure on a situation. So look at circumstances in your life where this could be the case, or maybe you're powerless to let something go. This will also raise blood pressure. So there's a recall healing angle to this too that not a lot of people talk about. Also tied to high blood pressure is low thyroid. So if your thyroid is not working correctly, that could oftentimes make your blood pressure rise. So what you might want to do, just as a simple, easy test to see if your thyroid is working, is to check your morning temperature, underarm temperature. And there's different places to check temperature in your body, but the morning temperature under your arms would be the place where I would start. And typically you want that to be anywhere from 97.8 to 98.2. And if it's not that, if it's less or more than that, then it's worth noting. Also tied to high blood pressure is vitamin D. So I don't recommend people take exogenous vitamin D because it breaks down the coupling system inside your body that creates this, that's supposed to create this in your skin through sunlight and cholesterol, and it breaks that apart. And what it does is it makes it so that you have excess amounts of calcium, interstitial calcium in your blood that you don't want. And so taking exogenous vitamin D would not be recommended. And by the way, there's over 100 types of vitamin D as well. And so when you take one, you're taking a hormone of just one type. And typically, if you do a blood test, they're looking at serum vitamin D and not fat vitamin D. Vitamin D is supposed to be stored in the fat. So they're not even looking in the right places. It's sort of like ferritin with iron. Morley Robbins says that's empty shotgun shells because the iron is stored in your tissues, and you're looking for serum iron ferritin levels, and that has really nothing to do with the amount of iron dysregulation in your body. And the same with vitamin D. They're looking at serum vitamin D, and what they need to do is look for vitamin D in your fat, and then look for all 100 types. And so it's a really complex issue. And so it has more to do with sunlight and cholesterol and mineral regulation, making sure you're getting vitamin D. But if you're low on vitamin D in general, that could be a cause for high blood pressure. So something to look at. We talked about adrenals before. And also another issue could be type 2 diabetes. So pre-diabetic people oftentimes have high blood pressure. So heavy metals, though, is where I would start, and looking at your cadmium levels, thyroid health, things like that. So I would start there first. So let's see here. Anything else to get to with blood pressure? So let's take a look here. All right. So with blood pressure, let's talk about some things that you could do. I've got a bunch of supplements that you can start looking at for blood pressure as well. But just realize that when someone says you have high blood pressure, specifically a doctor, they want to regulate that. And what's really going on, and the doctors don't realize this, is that there's an invisible process that's raising your blood pressure in order to keep you alive. So the medical doctors will always want to say, you have high blood pressure. There's this thing called blood pressure, and this is what it should be. And we get the numbers for what it should be from a sick population. And if you don't meet those requirements, if you're not within that range of the average sick person out there, then you are going to be sick as well, or the average healthy person, I should say. And so what they want to do is convince you that your body's broken and it's not working right, and you need to get on this pill or medication. And Dr. Bergman does an awesome breakdown of what these medications do inside the Extreme Health Academy on this blood pressure decoded course. So I'm going to play the intro to that in just a second. But if you guys want to go even further than all this stuff and learn the physiology of this stuff, it's really fascinating. But that's basically what doctors want to do, is they want to tell you that your body is broken and is not working properly. And really all it's doing, if your doctor says you have high blood pressure, look at that as like a check engine light coming on. You don't want to make sure that the check engine light goes away, because this is what medications do. What they do is they make the check engine light go away. They break other systems inside your engine, but you don't know that that's happening. But the check engine light now has simply disappeared. And so now they say, whoop, your blood pressure is fine. The check engine light is off. You're cured, whatever. But getting rid of a check engine light isn't fixing the problem. And not only that, it's also breaking other systems in your engine as well. So it's really, really important. So we have a whole video on this inside the Academy on the blood pressure course. It's really cool. And Dr. Bergman talks about like what these medications do, and it'll just blow your mind. My God, it's unbelievable. And the people just take that. I feel so bad for people. They just do what their doctor tells them. And it's so sad without doing any research. All right, so what can we do? So there's been a lot of studies showing stress and meditation tied to high blood pressure, right? So if you can find time to meditate, you might say, I can't meditate. I can't sit down. I've got restless leg syndrome. I can't shut off my thoughts, right? Well, that should tell you that you need more magnesium, because magnesium will help calm and relax your body to get into a meditative state. So if you can't meditate, it's probably because you're low on magnesium. And guess what percentage of people are low in magnesium? It's just about everybody. Since the magnesium burn rate is so high, we need it for everything. It's used for almost every biological function in the body. We use it for everything. And the first thing that goes when we're stressed is magnesium. And so now you don't have that one mineral to regulate 42% of your enzymes. So you can see how this mineral thing plays a real role in this stuff. So increase your magnesium intake, then you might be able to meditate, which would help even more. That'll be a dual approach to lowering your blood pressure. Obviously, what you want to do is drink more water, right? So there's this thing, a lot of people talk about the mitochondria. And we've been sold a bill of goods about drinking water, and really water, and this is true, water is created in your mitochondria. You have these little nanomotors inside your mitochondria that create ATP, and they allegedly spin at like 9,000 revolutions a minute. We talked about this on the show we did on deuterium. And these nanomotors, if they're broken, if they don't spin properly or don't spin enough like they should, then your body can't create ATP, then you don't have the energy to do things, right? And this is where you create water. This is the fourth phase of water talk from Gerald Pollack, I think. Or what's his name? Pollack? There's two Pollacks, right? The other Pollack, I forget what his name is, his first name. But he wrote the fourth phase of water, and it's really the structured water inside your body that's created by your mitochondria. But aside from that, just drink more water, okay? Because that doesn't help you. Drink more water, and that will help you clean your blood a little bit. One big thing that is massively important is your iron levels in your blood. So you have what they call an iron recycling system. And in your blood, your body stores iron. It's stored in your tissues, and it's all caused from the iron and acid rain and our iron fortification food program after World War II. And you have this recycling system that's supposed to go to your bone marrow and then take the bone marrow cells and either create copper or iron from that. And if your body can't recycle iron, you get all this iron in your body and your tissues that's starving off oxygen and preventing magnesium from working. And it's just this whole cascading effect. So if you want to learn more about that, we did 2 shows with Morley Robbins, and I think we might get him on every month, because I think he's one of the most important people in natural health today that nobody's really talking about. So what you could do as a man to donate blood, you can give blood with a change of every season. So what this does is it sort of supercharges your recycling system, because you have about 6 quarts of blood and you're donating an entire quart. So now your body kind of goes into panic mode, and it's got to re-regulate the iron recycling system. And so it's a metabolic stress on the body, but it's sort of like working out. It kind of breaks you down and then it pumps you back up by causing these recycling systems to work correctly. So donating blood for a man every season would be ideal. And I'm starting to do this now. I just donated at the fall in September of this year, and I'm going to do it again in December. So you just go to Red Cross and find a donation place in your area, and you can donate blood. Women, it's been advised, should donate twice a year, and then after menopause, 4 times a year like a man, because you want to get rid of that iron. It recharges your recycling system. So it's really important to do that. So another thing you can do for blood pressure is increase your magnesium, like we talked about, copper, whole food vitamin C, beef liver capsules, and bee pollen. And, what they talk about is copper regulates iron and magnesium regulates calcium. We talked about a heavy metal cleanse. You could do that. Sulfur and vitamin C are going to be really important as well, as well as collagen. So you can do like pig's feet, like Dr. Jennifer Daniels talks about, getting some really thick collagen in your bodies to strengthen connective tissue. Vitamin C does that. Sulfur does that. Make sure the vitamin C is a whole food vitamin C. Wireless radiation too is something big that is really important. And like I mentioned before, this is something no one is talking about. The effect of wireless radiation and excess iron. Who's putting those 2 things together? We know that wireless radiation causes fungus to grow at 600 times what it should. You expose a fungal mass to a Wi-Fi router and then put it in a Faraday cage and then take it back into the wire and expose it to the Wi-Fi, and the fungus will grow 600 times faster. That's the work of Dr. Lee Cowden, mentioned that on our show. So that's crazy, right? So wireless radiation, you want to make sure you're doing what you can to mitigate that. The Greenwave filters, the Magnetico Matrress pad. If you go to the EMF section on biocharge.me, you'll see a lot of stuff there. Something else you could do is making sure you get more biophotons from the sun and block blue light as much as you possibly can, because that's a stress to the body. Our bodies aren't supposed to be exposed. We have photoreceptors in our skin and photoreceptors in our gut as well that are seeking light. And so if we're exposing the body to the wrong frequencies of light at the wrong times of day, this is a biological stress. So you want to make sure that you're keeping in alignment with the sun and your environment. So if the sun is set, then you should be filtering all of your light. This is why I wear these blue blocking glasses right now, to block the blue light from the screen I'm looking at here. So really important to do, and these are things that are really easy. Like, you can make such strides with your health by just blocking light and regulating your light environment, and doing, mitigation on EMF. Like, it's such simple things to do. And, if, I'm convinced that if you focus on iron and focus on EMF and light and water and stuff like this, like the basics, you could eat pretty much whatever you want and you would feel great and you'd live a long time. That's probably why there's a lot of people like Kate's grandpa. He's 96 years old and he's never once done any of this stuff. He eats pizza and takeout because he was alive before the iron recycling system or the iron fortification program happened. And, before food was loaded with iron and foods had minerals in them, before non-native EMF was as massive as it is now. And so, getting rid of the encumbrances on our health is super important. And focus on that stuff before food, I just think it's really important to focus on things that are actually going to move the needle as much as you possibly can. So work on blocking sunlight, don't block sunlight, block man-made light. Get as much sun as you possibly can at the right times of the day. The morning is the best, but it's all context as well, because if you've been exposed to, say, huge amounts of polyunsaturated fatty acids, lipid peroxidation over the years, and then you're spending 4 hours in the sun every day, studies are showing that sunlight can spread what they call lipofuscin. And so that's why you see age spots on people and things like that. So, everything is in context and making sure. But in general, man is supposed to be in the sun. We're supposed to be out, getting sun on our bodies, on our skin, which is our solar panel. This is where our mitochondria figures out what kind of environment we're in, right? So, get more sun. I think we're deprived in that way, regardless, of all this PUFA and stuff like that. So let's see, some supplements you can take. This is what everybody likes, right? Like, what pills can I take to get rid of my high blood pressure? Let me bring up an article here. I'll show you a couple articles, but so here's an article here I got from our friends over at BBC News. By the way, do you guys trust BBC News? I mean, it's funny, right? Because certain things they say are good, and then most of it's propaganda, right? So it's funny to cherry pick things like this. But apparently there's a study here that says garlic may be useful in addition to medication to treat high blood pressure, a study suggests. Australian doctors enrolled 50 patients in a trial to see if garlic supplements could help those whose blood pressure was high despite medication. Those given 4 capsules of garlic extract a day had lower blood pressure than those on a placebo. So this is in the journal, a scientific journal of Martuitas? I don't know. I don't know what it's called. The British Heart Foundation said more research was needed. Yeah, you know why more research is needed? Because they have to find a way to disprove that so that you'll take a medication. That's why more research is needed. And then there's an article here from PubMed that says a single dose of cannabidiol reduces blood pressure in healthy volunteers in a randomized crossover studies. CBD is a non-psychoactive polycannabinoid used in multiple sclerosis and intractable epilepsies. Preclinical studies show CBD has numerous cardiovascular benefits, including a reduced blood pressure response to stress. The aim of the study was to investigate if CBD reduces blood pressure in humans. So the conclusion says here, the data shows that acute administration of CBD reduces resting blood pressure and the blood pressure increase to stress in humans associated with increased heart rate. These hemodynamic changes should be considered for people taking CBD. Further research, I always love this, further research is required to establish whether CBD has a role in the treatment of cardiovascular. This is the genius sentence here. Further research is required. It's not required, guys. Nature is the healer. God and nature is the healer. You don't need further research to show you something that nature's already doing. You need further research because you need to disprove this, spend more money on tests, and then get people to doubt whether or not this test was accurate so that you'll get them on something they can be sure of, which is a medication. That's why further research is needed. You don't need any further research. It shows you right here. So, it's... I just laugh, we live in such a crazy world, don't we? It's so crazy. So I've got some really cool supplements. Garlic was the first one, and I think what I'll do is take a little break, come back from the break, and share the rest of the supplements that you guys can take a look at. So we'll do that. Let's do that, and then we'll kind of jump in the chat room and see what you guys are saying about blood pressure, and we'll be right back.
We hope you're enjoying this episode. Thanks for being on this health journey with us, and don't forget to check out biochargeme.com for hundreds of health products to build a better you.
Biocharge.me is our website, and thanks for supporting us on there. There's lots of products. We have over, I think, a couple hundred products on there now. Everything from different categories, light water, magnetism, our saunas are in there, our supplements, the beef liver I talked about, all kinds of cool stuff inside the inside the biocharge.me. I mixed up our academy with the products. So yeah, if you guys are looking for cutting edge health products that we use and we stand behind, check out biocharge.me, and that's a cool website that we're updating on a regular basis. So I talked a little bit about it, but you guys are probably wondering why I'm wearing these weird orange glasses, right? There's a whole science behind this that is absolutely fascinating. And we had a natural ophthalmologist on the show, Dr. Sam Byrne. By the way, he did an entire almost 2-hour workshop inside our academy. So we did a live workshop with him, and he gave strategies and protocols for glaucoma, myopia, macular degeneration, all these things, like what to do for all of them, and blindness, eye floaters, all kinds of vision issues. That was so fascinating inside the academy, and that's a free workshop that's available to you if you want to check it out. But in this little clip, he talks about blue light and what it does to our eyes.
You've got the optical systems you're looking through, and then, as you say, the screen time. You know, when people use their digital device at night in dim light, the pupils dilate more. And so more of that blue light is going to get in because of the dilated pupil. But they're not using blue blockers, and they're not, doing eye supplements or eating foods that protect their eyes. So this blue light, it's a chaotic, very fast wavelength. It's going to damage the tissue in our eyes. No question about it. It's really critical. The lens of our eye, our original hardware, has a pigment that blocks the damaging blue light. But those plastic lenses that they put in the eye do not have the pigment that blocks the damaging blue light. So when people get the cataract surgery, then they're more susceptible to getting macular degeneration because that blue light can damage the macula. So they need to wear blue blocking lenses and protect their eyes, because these plastic lenses leave you wide open to be vulnerable to get the damage from the blue light. We're not sleeping well. We're exposed to all this blue light. So take your pick. There's probably, with all the people you have on your show, you could probably put that together and say, well, these are contributing factors in why our eyes are letting us down.
Yeah.
It's all of the above and more.
Yeah, guys, it's so funny. I'm looking at these pictures on biocharge.me. For some reason, do you guys remember that show Full House with Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen, I think? I don't know why these two girls here on this photo here that we have on our Biocharge.me store for these blue blockers glasses looks like Mary Kate Olsen and Ashley Olsen, or whatever their names are. But anyway, yeah, you can see here that they're wearing a pair of yellow and orange glasses, and these are the glasses that I'm wearing right now from a company called Blue Blocks. But Blue Blocks is one that we really like a lot, and the other one is Raw Optics, as well as TrueDark, and we use all three of those companies. I have all three of their glasses, and I use them at different times of day for different reasons. So it's really important, guys, to block blue light from your body, from your skin, but specifically through your eyes. Because of the high frequency, it damages and it makes the proteins in your eye not fold correctly. And when that happens, you start looking at things like cataracts and myopia and all these types of things. But then also, according to Dr. George Wallace from the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, he's saying that 85% of all chronic degenerative diseases is tied to light. So it's really critical, guys, to make sure that at any time you're exposed to something other than the sun that's giving off light, you're protecting your eyes. So this has huge implications for cancer and any other diseases as well. So I recommend these Blue Blocks glasses. I wear them. I'm wearing them right now, and they're just really, really critical, in my opinion, for blocking blue light and managing your light environment. There's also like light bulbs you can get, red lights in your house and things like that. But the first step is just getting some of these glasses. Super, super, super important. And so I'm just a big fan of them, a lot. And I think they're incredibly important. And so I want to share with you also our sauna. Have you guys checked out the sauna yet? I'm telling you guys, it's coming into fall and winter season. Sauna therapy is super, super awesome. during this time of year. It feels amazing. Ancient cultures did it, sweating out heavy metals and toxins. And listen to what Daniel Vitalis has to say about it.
Use your sauna. I know you guys promote saunas. I won't go on about that, but I think it's important to use saunas because they help to increase body temperature. There's a lot of great benefits to that. But some that I like are that in wild nature, we experience hot and cold. And at room temperature, which is a domesticated thing, we don't really get to feel metabolic extremes. So I think it's really good to challenge your body to cool itself and to heat itself. And so because I'm saying heat itself, I really recommend cold showers. Let's say 80% of your showers end cold. Oh. You know, right? You don't have to do it every time, but most of the time, if you end your shower cold, you'll start to build up your resistance to cold. And you'll also really tonify your skin and also kind of help to wring your body out at a detox level. That's really important.
Yeah, super, super important. And I think it's something that we all need to do. We're living in a crazy, weird, toxic environment right now, and we have to do crazy, weird things to overcome that. And, I wish we didn't have to. I wish we did not have to do these things because, who has time to do all this kind of stuff? But living in today's modern world, man, this is almost like necessary protocols. Here's what Dr. Robert Rowan had to say about it as well.
It's one of the biggest. The other issue is chemicals in the environment. And to get rid of chemicals in the environment, probably the most cost-effective method is to sweat them out. And far-infrared saunas is going to help sweat them out.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at the breast. What is the breast? It's 90% fat. It's only 10% mammary tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So the fat of the breast is going to store all these poisons, which act as estrogens, and hold it right up against sensitive mammary tissue.
And so these toxins get stored in the fat cells, and you can sweat these things out.
It's been shown that when you sweat in far-infrared saunas, you actually can begin downloading toxins from your body.
Yeah, guys. So it's really, really important. I think that sauna therapy should be a part of everybody's life. There's a lot of studies now showing a 40% decrease in all-cause mortality from people who use the sauna 4 to 7 times a week. This is coming from the studies quoted by Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and an increase in heat shock proteins and a 40% increase in immune system strength. It's because what it's doing, especially sweating in a parasympathetic state. So when your body is not exercising, you're not stressing your body, you're able to reach deeper down into your fat cells and into your blood, and to be able to have those far-infrared frequencies and rays oscillate your fat tissues. And with that comes the chemicals and the heavy metals. And this is why it's really important to sweat, guys. So we have a number of different saunas in our store. Super proud to be offering these now. So this is the one I'm showing on the screen right now is the one from Sauna Space, and it's a zero EMF. It's a near infrared model. The one I use is a far infrared model. A lot of people say which one's better. I just do both. So what I would do, if I were you, I would start with the cheapest one that we have, and that's the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. This is the one that I've been using about 5 times a week, I'd say, for the last 7 years. I love this thing, and it's just one of the best things you could ever purchase. It should be a part of your daily life from here on out. So start there, and then we have an ozone sauna that gets really complex and sophisticated. That one's almost $5,000. We have the clear light sauna, which is also really expensive, but a lot of these people that buy these saunas end up using the Relax Far Infrared sauna. So I would start with that one. And not only is it the cheapest, but in my opinion, it's my favorite. I don't know if there's a best. You can't really say there's a best. They all do different things, but this is why we offer them all on our site, so that you guys can get the ones that work best for you and your lifestyle. So I'd really recommend getting on some sort of sauna therapy and start utilizing the benefits of heat and what heat can do for you. So we'll be right back. We're going to take a little quick break, and we'll be back talking more about blood pressure.
Extreme Health Radio is your #1 resource for cutting-edge biohacks, news, and information about how to upgrade every area of your health. Subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.
I love that music. It's so serious. It's so moody. It's funny. Have you guys checked out or seen a lot of the, what do you call it, deplatforming campaigns and stuff like that going on in today's world with vaccines and all that kind of stuff? Man, they're just removing YouTube accounts and all kinds of people. It's absolutely crazy. They're deplatforming us on YouTube, and eventually I'm sure they'll pull us off of YouTube altogether. This is why we created the Academy. I'm telling you guys, because I don't know how long we're going to have the option of creating, content for people that's actually going to help people. And, there's a lot of other websites and podcasts out there doing the same thing. And what they're trying to do is deplatform and trying to get people like us to stop talking. So I was watching a video recently from a guy by the name of Sayer G, and he has Green Med Info. And he knew from the beginning, I think he started his website, I think it's greenmedinfo.com. He started his website years ago, and it's a really great website. But he knew from the very beginning that they were going to deplatform him and take him off because he's talking about things that actually matter. So this is what's fascinating about today's world. And this is why I was saying, I played that little clip there for you guys to join our newsletter, because, they may kick us off of YouTube, off Facebook, off Instagram. We'll use those platforms for as long as we have, but if we go away and you're signed up to our newsletter, you won't miss anything. But here's the weird thing about a guy like Sayer G. He sort of had this foreknowledge that they were going to kick him off these platforms, and this is exactly what happened. So what they do is they start, as far as YouTube goes, and other platforms do this too, they'll start demonetizing your videos. So if you earn a little bit of money, advertising revenue from your videos, they'll prevent you from doing that. And then the next step they'll do is and by the way, when they do that, they don't tell you. So you got to go through manually all your videos every day to find out which videos have been flagged. And so they don't tell you, and so you got to constantly monitor that. And then what they do is they start flagging you. So you're allowed like strikes, and if you get 3 strikes, they kick you, they deplatform you. And so we recently had a strike from the show we did with Carrie Rivera with her work with MMS and AUTISM. I'm spelling it out because I don't want this video to go away either. But yeah, so they took our video away and gave us a strike. So we get 2 more strikes and we're off YouTube. So this is what they're doing. And so anyway, Sayer G anticipated this, and this is why he kept encouraging people to join his newsletter, because he didn't know how long they were going to allow him to speak the truth. And then what happened was they kicked him off all the social media. And I don't know if he's back on or not right now, but this is the scary, nefarious thing. So he was with an email service provider called MailChimp. And MailChimp, what happened was they kicked him off of MailChimp. So he had this huge newsletter list, and they removed, I think they just kicked him off there. And the reason why is because now MailChimp was receiving investments from some pharmaceutical company. So these companies are smart because they realize what's going on. Like, it's like the boys, like the Illuminati or whatever you want to call these people. Like, they've got 100-year plans for humanity. They're making plans for 100 years out. And these pharmaceutical companies are doing the same thing. Like, they're smart. So they start buying up these email service provider companies or trying to invest in them so that they can control some of their policies, knowing that some of these emails that are being sent out are anti-vaccine or anti-pharmaceutical, stuff like that. So, it's a smart move. I'm telling you. These guys aren't stupid. So this is one of the reasons why I encourage you guys to join our newsletter so you get updates on everything going on. So let me jump back in the chat room before I share with you some of the supplements about vitamin D3. Gosh, you guys are so cool. DMSO. Wow. Can you elaborate more on sunspots? Was intake of the sun at wrong times? How to avoid? Brandy says. Yeah, so sunspots are often called liver spots, and if you have, I'm starting to get those too, because I ate a diet super heavy in omega-3 fatty acids for years. So what they say, at least Adam Berkson calls this lipofuscin, and this is lipid peroxidation, or the oxidation of unsaturated fat molecules in your body combined with iron. And you see these things, little spots on people, especially if they're older, and they just call them liver spots. Well, it's oxidized iron and oxidized polyunsaturated fatty acids, and apparently the sun can spread those. So the more sun you get, eating a diet high in omega-3 fatty acids. This is what they say now. I have no way of proving this or knowing this to be true, but this is kind of where I'm thinking, and kind of what I'm thinking is accurate. But I'm just like you with this stuff. Like, the only way to really know this stuff is to like cut a human body open and have it work at the exact, and actually see this stuff happening, right? Otherwise, we're just reading papers and listening to people and getting ideas, right? So, but this is what I think is happening, is the sun is spreading this, what they call lipofuscin. So at the wrong times of day, like midday sun, eating a diet high in omega-3 fatty acids, lots of nuts and seeds, algae oils, things like that, baking in the sun, probably not a good idea. How to avoid? So just make sure to get sun in the morning is the best time, because that way you get access to UVA, UVB, and UVC rays. And your body your eyes have receptors for UV light, which is something that most ophthalmologists say is not true or don't know about. If UVA was so damaging, why would your eyes have a receptor for it? So this helps to regulate your pineal gland and the cascade of hormones, getting that first morning sun in the morning. So, and that way you won't burn either, because in the morning sun, that's when you're going to create melanin in your skin. And melanin is anti-cancer, and it helps. This is why shaga mushroom is so good, because it has melanin in it, and it's very anti-cancer as well. So this is where you build melatonin in the morning sun and build melanin and make your body, the cascade of hormones from your pineal gland to your pituitary to your thyroid and on down. So morning sun's the best. Just try not to bake in the sun. Probably a good idea. All right. How can we check out the episode where the eye floaters are talked about? Very intriguing, Brandy. Yeah, the eye floaters, that was... What episode was that? Let me look. That was Dr. Sam Byrne. We talked about that in our academy. We did a 2-hour workshop with Dr. Sam Byrne in our academy. What number was Sam Byrne on our show? Do we have that? If you go through the archives, you'll see the episode with Sam Byrne. I forget. He's the ophthalmologist. We also did a show with a couple other doctors, Dr. Ed Condra, and other people. If you go to the vision section of our website. Or you could just sign up for free for the Extreme Health Academy for a 2-week trial and watch that live workshop we did with Dr. Sam Byrne. All right, so, okay, just kind of scrolling through. This is so funny. So I got an email, or I didn't get an email. This is a message from Brian. And it's like YouTube flagged it. It's held for review. So this is great. This is so YouTube. This is why so many people don't like YouTube. So YouTube blocked this message from Brian Riley from coming in. And he says, get on BitChute for a backup. I'll subscribe yesterday if you do. So BitChute is I first learned about it from TruthStream Media, and it's a similar site to YouTube, right? Where you can get on there and create your own channel. And this is what we're going to be doing too. There's another site called Library, LBRY.com. And then there's Brighteon that Mike Adams, our friend, had created from Natural News. So we've got to figure out, do we just go all to one, or do we then distribute our shows to all 3 of those websites? We got to figure that out. But BitChute I've known about for a little while. But YouTube censored that comment. So I'm going to click show so that I can see it. That's so crazy, of course, because they don't want people going to another platform, right? That makes sense. Protect your own, right? They want to control every aspect of your being, Tina says. It's true. Totally true. We're moving into a draconian state where forced vaccinations are coming. Complete control over us is coming. And we don't live in a free society at all. So it's just important to understand that, So let me share with you the other complexes, the other supplements about high blood pressure that you may want to look at that I'd like to share with you. So the other things I'd like to share are a series of like 10 or 11 supplements. And really, high blood pressure is a result of a lifestyle and environmental breakdown, and it's your body's best attempt to maintain homeostasis and to keep you alive. If your blood pressure didn't rise, you'd be dead because of the environment and or the stress levels you're living in. So just remember that if your blood pressure is rising, or if you have high cholesterol, if you have some sort of inflammatory marker that a blood test is showing, just remember that this is your body's way of dealing with a toxic environment and or a toxic lifestyle. So it's the body's best attempt to keep you alive. So it has to raise blood pressure because there's other processes that have to be done. And so since they can't be done because of the environment we're living in, it has to raise blood pressure in order to do that. So your body's like super, super smart. So don't think, oh, there's something wrong with you. I need to take these supplements to raise or to regulate my blood pressure. What really needs to happen is that you change your lifestyle and environment. If you do that, your blood pressure is going to regulate on its own. So, but there are some supplements we can take, and here are they are. Garlic, which I mentioned. So I'm not going to share with you, like, I've got all these studies about each one of these things. I don't know. I'm not going to share them just because, you know, if you need studies to convince you of these things, I mean, these things intuitively should make sense. So I'm just going to share them without the studies. Garlic is one you can take capsules 4 times a day, like it said in that article. Cayenne pepper is another one, great for regulating blood pressure and for cleaning up the blood. Really tremendous herb and substance you can take in pill format. Just a little side note, I used to, when I took it before, I would always have to eat it or swallow the capsules before a meal because I'd be burping up like cayenne pepper and it just didn't feel good. So I would take the capsules and then eat a meal on top of that, and that always helped me. CoQ10 would be something else you'd want to look at for blood pressure as well. There's a little caveat to CoQ10 though. It has to saturate the organs and the tissues and the serum. So it takes about 3 to 4 months for that to sort of kick in and actually have an effect. But CoQ10 would be definitely something that I would look into. Systemic enzymes would be really important. So for those that don't know, enzymes are really key for a lot of different reasons. So like I mentioned before, we have 9,000 enzymes that regulate all of the amino acids and the different chemical structures in our body. 9,000 enzymes that basically carries out function for 100 trillion cells, right? So enzymes are super important. And we use enzymes to digest our food. We use enzymes to break down chemicals and sort of trash that we're exposed to on our bodies. So, or what they call fibrosis or calcification. So I would take a good enzyme while you're eating your meals. The ones I like are on biocharge.me. They're from my friend Matt Blackburn, and he's offering you guys a 25% discount. So if you use code EHR25, I think, they're the ones from Life, and they're the ones that I take. I'm super stoked to be able to finally get behind an enzyme product because I've been taking them for, almost 17 years now. And so you can also take his other enzyme. It's a systemic enzyme, and you take this without food on an empty stomach. And so you can take it before bed or when you wake up on an empty stomach. And what this does is helps to eat up foreign material in your blood. So any pathogens and viruses and fungus and bacteria, fibrosis, calcification, all that kind of stuff, it goes through like Pac-Man and just chews up the stuff and digests it and liquefies it, and then you urinate it out. So the Digest It All, I think, is his product for digestion. And Dissolve It All is also what I would take if I had high blood pressure, or if my body showed blood pressure that was high. So those are on biocharge.me. Systemic enzymes, ACV, apple cider vinegar. I would do a tablespoon in 4 ounces of water every day. Olive leaf extract, really great. A lot of studies I came across showing the benefits of olive leaf extract. We did an entire show on it. In fact, it's on our homepage right now, and with Jeff Melcher from East Park Research, and that was a good show. We carry them in our store, just so you know, but I would really start taking olive leaf extract. And then red yeast rice is often touted as being anti-high blood pressure, anti-hypertension. And then finally, what is probably showing the most promise is what they call European mistletoe. So this is European mistletoe, and a lot of times it's combined with like hawthorn or something like that, and it is having a tremendous effect on blood pressure. And there's a product called, we're not financially tied to it, but it's from a company called Weed Botanicals, and it's called CV Tension Plus, from Weed, WEED Botanicals. So you can look into that. And then taurine, magnesium taurate, you can take that. Premier Research Labs, or Cardiovascular Research is the one that I used to take. Got to buy some more of those. And then onion, and then reishi is going to be really, really key. Onion as well. And those onion, garlic, hawthorn, ginger, stuff like that all contain sulfur. And this is why sulfur is one of the main reasons why sulfur is so good, because sulfur is needed for so many different regulations of the body. Sulfur is like a key foundational mineral that we should all be taking, sulfur. And this is why these foods are so good. And then obviously reishi mushroom. There's different reishi extracts. We have reishi in our store, a company called Real Mushrooms, and we have some reishi from Sir Thrival that we like a lot. That one is really good. That's a dual extraction. If you go into the mushroom section in our store, you'll see those. But yeah, reishi. And then obviously exercising is going to be really key, because you want to get that body moving. And you want to get blood circulating and moving throughout the body. And you want to get that lymph fluid moving too, because that's super important when it comes to blood pressure regulation. That's one of the reasons why I like a walk or a run, or I recommend rebounding. We have a rebounder on our store that I recommend and use. That's the Bellicon, where you jump up and down and you open and close those millions of one-way valves in your lymphatic system. And those things open and close every time you have that negative impact, the G-force acting on your entire body weight coming down at the bottom of the jump is super important. And so that helps flush and pump that lymph fluid, which there's no pump for like there is with blood. So exercising is really important. Reducing polyunsaturated fatty acids, daily saunas, you remineralize afterwards. Something I just learned recently about sauna therapy, which is really cool, is that I didn't know this, but heavy metals and chemicals get excreted from the body through attaching themselves to a sodium molecule. So if you want to get rid of more toxins and chemicals when you sweat, drink some water with probably a quart of water with a teaspoon of salt in it before you go in the water, before you go in the sauna. And while you're in the sauna, constantly wipe yourself off to encourage your pores to open so more sweat will come out. And that is a really good way to induce more chemicals to come out with the oscillation of the fat cells from the far infrared and near infrared frequencies of the sauna yourself. So pretty cool little hack there for sauna therapy. And then make sure you remineralize afterwards, sauna. So, take some mineral supplements or things like that. I like the Intramax. I think that's in our store, or you can get it on Amazon. I like that one a lot. So these are all some things that you can do. So with high blood pressure, I'm telling you guys, if you donated blood, I think the biggest foundation with this is excess iron. And if you donated blood, make sure you increase your magnesium, increase your copper intake, reduce your amount of iron that you ingest, reduce your amount of polyunsaturated fatty acids, got more retinol in your body. I think that these things by itself, and copper as well from whole food vitamin C, beef liver, things like that, capsules, bee pollen, all those things. If you start doing those things while you're focusing on really kind of the root cause of your iron issues or your blood pressure issues, I think this would really help. I think it would really, really help in regulating your light levels and stuff like this too. So we recently released a course. Let me bring this up. I think you guys will find this pretty cool. So this is a recent, the intro to the blood pressure course that we did with Dr. Bergman. It's inside our academy. And check this out.
Welcome to our video course series on blood pressure. In this series, we're going to cover what blood pressure is, how blood pressure is measured, the history of how it's measured, and what numbers actually mean. Also, the drugs used to treat it, and the psychosis and ignorance involved. The reason I say that is because every doctor knows that the body is self-healing and self-regulating. Like all animal species on the planet, all animal species can regulate their own physiology. So what's actually broken in the body that can't regulate its own physiology? We're going to cover how the body works and the function of blood, which is vital to learn. Once you realize that your body is self-healing and self-regulating, you're not going to look at blood pressure as a definitive measurement of physiology. It's a clue. It's a clue to how your body's adapting to the environment, but it is definitely not the silent killer, and that needs to be controlled with a chemical. We're going to look at the causes and the adaptive physiologic response, which is what blood pressure actually is. You're going to love this course series. It's going to crack your skulls open, and it's going to break the paradigm that high blood pressure is the silent killer, and you're going to start to look at the medical system as a little bit dysfunctional. You're right. It's not a little bit. It's hugely dysfunctional. And we're going to cover that in this series. Welcome to this, and prepare to have your mind blown.
I love that. Yeah, so this is a brand new course that we just released yesterday in the Academy, all about blood pressure, and I'm gonna show it to you guys. You guys can take a look at it. But I mean, this is kind of stuff that, like, it really kind of, I don't know, not bothers me, but man, we have no idea what's going on in the human body, and we're just not taught how physiology works. We're not taught about any of this stuff, and should they be teaching it in schools? I don't know, but we should have access to information like this. And so we have all these courses inside. We've got 20 courses. I've got one here on nervous system, one on yoga, getting the healing process started. So if you don't know where to start, we've got one on digestion, improving your hormones, immune system. That would be a great time for those in the Northern Hemisphere now for wanting to improve your immune system, preventing and healing cancer. We've got one on autoimmune diseases, heart health, sleeping improvements, adrenal health, diabetes mastery, a series of whole body restorative exercises that are just like really, really cool. Liver rescue course. You know, the liver has over 500 functions. Like, wouldn't we want to start there to make sure we have really good and optimal health? 500 functions. And if the liver's not working properly, liver, thyroid, I mean, these are like organs that need to be operating properly. We've got healthy bones course for those dealing with osteoporosis, skin health, sexuality course taught by Miss Jaya. Even have a course on finances. Like, a huge stress on people is their financial aspect of their life and how are they going to pay their bills. And, this is a massive stress. And the system is designed to keep us sick and keep us poor. It's designed that way. So there's a lot of stress around that. So here's the blood pressure decoded course. I'm just going to show it to you. And we've got 20 courses, 406 videos just in our courses section. And this one here is 36 videos, and the total is, my goodness, 4 hours. So 4 hours of content in 36 videos. And he goes through here, myth number 1, high blood pressure causes disease. High blood pressure is genetic. How the body actually works, the role and function of red blood cells, the functions of the blood, what causes cardiovascular disease, what's the actual cause, adaptive stress response, chemical, physical, emotional stresses that are all related to high blood pressure, proper nerve cases, regular exercise, water, coffee, tea, salt, the optimal diet, special nutrients, blending, juicing, prayer, meditation, and finally the solution for all diseases. So, I mean, this is a really, really groundbreaking course that I think everyone should know about. Blood pressure. Like I mentioned before, I mean, what was this study from the CDC? 75 million American adults, 32% have high blood pressure. That's 1 in every 3 people. And it's associated with heart disease and stroke. So this is like crazy, massively important. So that's why we do what we do. So if you guys know of anybody that might be interested in this course, let them know about this show and some of the things that I talked about on today's show as well. So let me go back and see what you guys are talking about in the chat room and see if I can be of service to you guys. Okay, so how will we avoid the forced vaccinations? We have rights. We do. This gets into, Janet, like some super deep issues and topics. So I'd prefer not to get into those because we don't have rights. If you have a birth certificate, you don't have rights. You have civil rights, and civil rights are a way to control the population. The only way you actually have rights is if you don't have a birth certificate and you operate as a free man on the soil. So that requires a level of understanding that I don't think anyone on the planet knows about. So when you see people arguing and fighting for civil rights, you know they're barking up the wrong tree, because it's not civil rights that we want to exercise. It's our God-given rights. So the way they're going to tie the forced vaccinations is they're not going to make it forced. They're very clever. They're just going to tie it to things that you can't live without, like driving, like going to school, like getting a Netflix account, like getting an Amazon account, like getting a passport, like going to school. They're just going to tie it to all kinds of things that you don't want to live without. But they're going to say America, land of the free, home of the brave. You know, it's just so crazy. So that's the thing to just be aware of, you know what I mean? So it's really important to, if I were you guys, this is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to work on getting dual citizenship because my mom is from New Zealand. I'm going to work on that. And I'm also going to work on getting my passport, my international passport. They're typically good for 10 years. And now they're tying some other documents to traveling as well. So you watch. It's 100% guarantee. You watch. They are going to start in the next few years, especially during flu season, even though there's not a flu season. What they're going to do is they are going to start coming up with sensationalized stories of people getting the flu or dying from the flu from flying in airplanes. This is 100% guaranteed. If there's ever like a time machine in 5 years, I'm proven right. They can go back and get a screen grab of this snippet. But this is what they're going to do. They're going to start making it so that people are scared to fly because, it looks like we just are done recording. Okay. Does that say? Okay, shoot. We're still streaming. Okay. So they're going to make it so that it's people are afraid to fly, and because people are getting sick because people don't have vaccines. And then they're going to start requiring vaccines to fly. And then they're going to start requiring vaccines to get a driver's license. And so this is the plan. Like I mentioned before, they have 100-year goals. So like these people are super smart. So what we have to do is just make sure that we're as healthy as we possibly can. Tina says, democracy is the madness of men. It's not real. Yeah. So this is why we encourage you guys. You know, I posted a thing on our Instagram a while back saying that one of the ways to disarm the pharmaceutical giants is to make sure that you don't have stock in those companies, for one, and then make sure you're healthy enough to never have to use their products and or get their flu shots. So if you're not getting vaccines, if you're not getting the flu shot, if you're not taking high blood pressure medication, if you're not taking cholesterol lowering statins, if you're not taking all these things, then, and you're not investing in those companies either. So one thing to really look at is like your mutual funds. A lot of times your mutual funds are bundled and you're investing in 20, 30 companies within one fund. And one of those companies, unbeknownst to you, could be something like Merck or some company like that. So what I recommend is making sure that you don't invest in any mutual funds that have those as part of their portfolio. So that's, something, because we got to make sure that we're healthy and strong so we don't need their services. So that's how that's how you go right after the money, and that's where if they don't have any money, they don't have any money to lobby government and politics. So that's how you kind of get around the pharmaceutical companies. So I shared a bunch of things about why we have blood pressure, what the top and bottom numbers mean, the role of heavy metals and what causes it to go up, your thyroid, your vitamin D, your adrenals, diabetes, cadmium, heavy metals, stuff like that, feeling powerless in your life, too much stress, and then ways to overcome it with supplementation and lifestyle and diet change. And I hope you guys enjoyed this show. We've been going for 2 hours, and I was only supposed to go like an hour, but there's so much to share. And I research and I read and I gather up all these ideas for so long that it's so it's so hard to keep it at an hour. But anyway, I love you guys so much. And if you guys want to join the Academy, there's a link down below if you're watching on YouTube for an EHR 14. That will give you a free 14-day trial. And I'm telling you guys, like, if you're not interested in blood pressure, there's 19 other courses there, not counting workshops and health database and all kinds of really, really cool stuff. So I really encourage you to join. And too, what I love about it is that I'm in there in the forums just about every day. So I love interacting with you guys, and it's so much fun. I just love it. So come over to the Academy, say hello, join the forum, join the community, and get access to all this information I think is life-changing. I'm a little biased because, you know, I help run it. So it's just a lot of fun. And I think everyone should have this kind of foundation. I noticed a seed company on your hat. What's the website, please? Janet. Yeah, that is this. So I got this hat in Texas. We went to Texas, and it's from Magnolia Seed Company. And this is, what is that? What are they called? Chip and Joanna Gaines. That's the fixer-upper people, like the home makeover people. Yeah, so my wife, Kate, and co-host, who's taking care of our little twin babies right now, is a big fan of them. And we watch their show sometimes. And that's the one where they go into the homes and fix up people's homes and stuff like that. So long story short, we went there when the kids were 6 months old to go visit our biological dentist, Dr. Stuart Nunley in Marble Falls, Texas. And on the way back, we stopped at their compound. They're sort of taking over Texas. And so that was a lot of fun. But as a side note, I can't promote this. We get nothing. There's no financial compensation for this at all. But dental and oral pathology is one of the most important things when it comes to your health. There's a lot of like foundational pieces to your health, like, you know, your non-native EMF, right? Proper mineral balancing, iron dysregulation in the mineral part of your health, blue light, and oral pathology. Oral pathology is like, it's got to be in the top 5 of things to focus on, because what a lot of people don't realize is that your teeth, every tooth is tied to an organ and vice versa. So a lot of times what they're showing now with breast cancers, for example, is that like 70% or 80 or 90%, I forget the number, of people that have breast cancer have some issue with a certain tooth. And if you look at that tooth on an x-ray, it actually reflects right to the area of the breast where they have a tumor. And so oral pathology correlates to all manner of disease. And so if you have any oral health issues, it's really important to go to a biological dentist. And we get nothing for recommending you, but I would make the visit to Dr. Stuart Nunley's office in Marble Falls, Texas. He is like the most salt of the earth, genuine guy you'll ever meet, and his staff is amazing. And they're just such great people. Like, you'll love going to this dentist office, I'm telling you. And so Janet has never heard about this. Yeah, so there's a lot of like root cause. If you go on Amazon, I think they removed it. I don't know if it's still on there, but there's a documentary on Amazon called Root Cause. And we've done a number of shows about dentistry and oral pathology and how it relates to disease and causes disease too, which is crazy, right? So there's a two-way meridian system in the body according to Chinese medicine, and every tooth reflects to an organ, and every organ reflexes to a tooth. So if you're having a tooth issue on a certain tooth, it could mean that particular organ that it reflexes to is bad. And when you fix the organ, the tooth fixes itself, which is crazy. But they're tying now Dr. Bob Dowling in Mexico or in Ecuador. He's done some x-rays where it shows a line going from a root canal, an infected tooth, all the way to a tumor in a lady's breast. So, I mean, this stuff is like, this is a big deal. But the problem is that people are putting mercury fillings in people's teeth and people putting inorganic compounds in there and heavy metals, and then they're getting root canals. And these things are putting such a tremendous burden on your immune system that it's just like, why do that? Like if you're burdening the immune system 30% with your oral health because you have a root canal or cavitations from extracted wisdom teeth or something like that, then now your body only has 60%. Your immune system has 60%. Then it's got to deal with all the other stuff, excess iron. And so by the time your body can deal with something like cancer, which we all have, by the way, don't be scared into thinking that you don't have this. We all have it. It's been projected that the human body, if it lives the full duration between 75 and 80 years, is going to have 4 major bouts with cancer, and the person won't even know it because the body gets on top of it and you don't even know that it happens. So the real issue is if you get a diagnosis and then the medical industry gets involved in that. That's when the real problem starts happening. But anyway, you put all these burdens on the immune system, and by the time you have some condition like, I don't know, parasites or something, your body only has like 70 or 20% of energy because you're burdening the immune system with stress, with oral pathology, with root canals, all these types of things. So it's really important to make sure that you remove these things in your life that are causing your immune system to be so bogged down and burdened. And then all of a sudden you have the ATP, your mitochondria are working properly, you have the energy to get on top of these things, and you live a long, healthy, disease-free life. But it's all these burdens. And oral pathology has to be in the top 5 most important things to work on. EMF, light, parasites, I think, and mineral balancing, iron dysregulation. These things are like top of the line. And then chemicals in our environment, you know. So it's really important. So anyway, you got to make sure you go to a biological dentist. And so we're so crazy that our twin boys were 6 months old and we drove from California, Southern California, to Marble Falls, Texas. It took us like 3 days to drive there because we didn't want to expose our kids to flying and non-native EMF even more than a car ride would be. So we drove with 2 twin boys, 6 months old, all that distance for 3 days just to go to Dr. Stuart Nunley. So I'm telling you guys, like, it's worth flying there. We flew there in 2010. In 2010, I got my, what did I get out? I got my root canal. No, I got my mercury fillings removed in 2010. And then 2013, I had my 2 root canals removed. And I had 2 root canals here. And then I had 4, before I knew better, 4 cavitations from wisdom tooth extractions back that I had done in 1999. So for those that don't know what a cavitation is, it's basically when your tooth is removed and they don't remove all of the periodontal ligaments in your gum. And what that does is that basically rots, right? Those are the root systems of the tooth. They leave those in there, and then the body will create tissue that will grow over. And now you have this pocket of festering bacteria and fungus and all these pathogens that are growing in a unregulated environment because the gum is now grown over. So now you can't get any saliva and your immune system constituents to get in there, right, and regulate that stuff. So it's like in this little, almost like a biofilm. And so that's what a cavitation is. It's like this pocket, and then that starts to rot out someone's jaw, for example, and you have this burden on the immune system, and these things are toxic. So he did a pathology report on what was in my cavitations and root canals, and you wouldn't believe some of the words that came back, like, whoa. So anyway, all that to say that go visit a biological dentist before going to any regular dentist. And I recommend just going and seeing Dr. Nunley. You know, I can't recommend him enough. He's just amazing. So anyway, love that guy. Love his staff. We're going to go there again here pretty soon. Thanks again, Justin. Don't use fluoride pastes and rinses. Use essential oils and bentonite clay and charcoal-based formulas. Yeah, Dale, I agree. Oh my gosh, that's awesome, Dale. You had all of your metal fillings taken out. That's great. Another thing people aren't talking about is how are mercury fillings going to interact with 5G? I bet you your dentist who's putting in metal fillings doesn't even know what 5G is or how that would impact mercury fillings. So you got to put these pieces together, which is like not a lot of people are doing. So anyway, yeah, it's been a long time that. Yeah. Well, Janet, thanks for being here. This is really cool. And Dale, Rebecca from the Academy, thanks for being here as well. This is really cool. Love you guys. So much fun. Tina and gosh, a lot of you guys. Keeps Caton. Oh my gosh. Publix offers a $10 gift card if you take their free flu vaccine. Jeez. Wow. Brian, Dale, you guys are awesome. So thanks, Brandy. Thanks for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. So Yes, we'll be back on Monday if you guys want to join us, and we post our upcoming schedule on our homepage of Extreme Health Radio under the upcoming guests column. And who do we got Monday? Oh my gosh, Monday we have Morley Robbins. Wow. So we're going to be talking about the dynamic to copper and iron. Sweet. And then next Friday we have Scott Nelson. That's cool. We'll be talking about photobiomodulation. That's the Juve red light therapy device we have that's available in our store. That's cool. Wow, we have Janice Barcelo on the show again? Whoa, that's Monday, November 11th. I should post her show. I should repost her show. If you guys are subscribed on iTunes, I'll do that tonight. Or I'll do that on Monday. How about that? The dangers of ultrasound and other technologies based on non-ionizing radiation for babies. Whoa, that's crazy. Janice Barcelo. She was on the show a long time ago. Man, she was a trip. She talked about like blood ritual sacrifices and what they do with babies' blood in hospitals. Like, whew, it was like she started talking about satanic demonism and stuff related to hospitals. That was crazy. So that should be a fun show. I'm excited about Morley. That's going to come on Monday. So yeah, come join us Monday, 10:45. That's going to be really cool. That is so cool. Yeah, so we'll talk more about iron dysregulation, unbound copper. We'll talk about minerals, magnesium, all that kind of cool stuff on Monday. So stay tuned for that one. Make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher, whatever you listen to us on or watch us on YouTube. Subscribe. We don't know how long we'll be around, so make sure you join our newsletter at least so that you get our updates that way. And so Dale Val says, you're a smart lad. I'll be back for sure, Jason. Thanks. Well, I do a lot of research and I love reading and researching and, helping people. And so I don't know how smart I am. I just like this stuff. Kind of weird, but I do. Janet says 10:45. That'll be AM Pacific we're in California. So 10:45 AM Pacific on Monday. So Morley Robbins is, in my opinion, one of the unsung heroes of alternative health. And like I said before, no one's talking about him. And I think he's one of the seminal guys. Like talk about smart. Like I can't even understand 10% of what he talks about. But I believe that he has the biggest piece, probably next to Jack Cruz, about light in natural health. I think his work is just seminal. And I think it's really important to understand what he says. So that's going to be fun. I'm super happy about that. That'll be cool. All right, guys. Well, we love you very, very much. I hope you have a great weekend wherever you are, wherever you're listening. You guys are really cool. And it's just an honor to be here. It's an honor to be part of this community and being helpful and trying to do as much as I possibly can to help you guys. So I really appreciate that. And you guys being here a lot. So thank you again, Janet, and all you guys. You guys, Dale, Tina, thank you. I really appreciate it. You're a walking antenna with mercury fillings exposed to 5G. I agree. So love you guys a lot. Thank you very, very much. I'll see you on Monday, 10:45. Hopefully you guys will be here and we'll get to hang out and talk with Morley Robbins, and that will be just a lot of fun. So thanks again for joining us. Come say hello in the Extreme Health Academy. We'd love to have you join. Take that free 2-week trial. Say hello in the forums and interact, and it's a lot of fun. So love you all. You're amazing. I'll put all the show links at extremehealthradio.com/636. And make sure to think about us too before you make any purchases of any like saunas or any tools. Just remember us at biocharge.me and get access to our store and our products and stuff like that. Because without your support, by either sharing our show with your friends on Instagram or Facebook, or subscribing to us and sharing us, and or your support buying through our Amazon link or through our store, we can't do this show. So we need your support. So I really, really appreciate when you think about us and buy through our links. That's what really helps us a lot. So anyway, love you guys all very much. I'll see you Monday, 10:45 Pacific. Have a great weekend.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse